here. They go, anytime a communist regime takes over a country, they go after three classes of people in order. They go after the farmers first because they don't want you being able to feed yourself. They go after the intelligentsia next, anybody smart enough to know what they're doing. And third, they go after the police and veterans that are still loyal to the old regime. That's kind of where we're at right now. Right now.
Clayton, let me say this about your Liberty Villages. I know quite a bit about them. You're talking about having a sustainable individual life on a level where an individual could survive. I have another good idea. How about regionalized government where we create our own cash system within, let's say, a 100-mile radius? Like I live in Northeast Ohio, and we have Lake Erie as a huge amount of water. Okay, we have oh, by the way, that's a sin to have your own water too now. But we have an unlimited amount of water. Plus, within 100 miles radius or south of us in the west and east, we have fertile farmland everywhere. If people could even regionalize governments, we could still live a Liberty-like type village with solar panels, but instead we'd have bigger confines to live in, and we could help each other out. What do you think of that?
I think the whole Liberty Village concept, I planned it to be 30 miles away from their nearest town, so we don't have the pollution, we don't have the crime. And you got the land to raise animals or grow on without having to deal with all of the restrictions in the city. However, the whole plan for Liberty Villages, all you got to do is organize your neighbors, everybody on the block, dig up the backyards, plant a garden, plant different things, trade. You've got the whole idea of Liberty Hours would be used the same way Ithaca Hours was. So right. You got a veteran. Okay, bud, you're homeless. You want a place to stay? You can stay here. You can sleep. You can share that TV over there with the other 5 guys. If you get out of line, they're gonna beat you up, kick you out, and you know, we'll self-regulate that way. And
right,
if you're gonna milk the goats. You're gonna fix this. You're gonna pick the crops. You're gonna carry them over to the restaurant, where somebody else is going to prepare the food for the public, and
right, the non-tortured food, that is.
That's right, non-tortured food. You know,
I can't get over that, because Clayton, most of our meat comes from these processing plants, and Liberty Villages has that great concept. And you know what bothers me the most when I think of Tyson Chicken? No Italian mobster could ever create anything as cruel as Tyson Chicken, but because they're a corporate entity, they're like Walmart, they get away with this most disgusting practices. And in Liberty Villages, you certainly would not see that. We'd probably have a better code of ethics to our animals.
You know, it's like I think you're the one that said that to me. You know, we ought to have glass walls in slaughterhouses. Well,
yeah, that was Paul McCartney's wife. She became a vegan, and he did too, or a vegetarian. And he said if slaughterhouses had glass walls and people could see what's happening, they would learn real quick that the animals are not being treated humanely. And my whole thing with animals is this: let them live 99.999% of their lives in happiness, and then if you slaughter them quick, then at least the animal hasn't suffered from the day it was born.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and the food value, they're discovering. As a matter of fact, I just had somebody on my show that's talking about spinning water, and it sounds kind of fantastic until you try it on a Coca-Cola and watch all the fizz go out of it. So something is being done there. And it's awareness is happening. People are starting to get smarter. They're starting to understand that we're actually being poisoned by the water that we're drinking, the fluoride in it, the chemtrails in the air. And the Liberty Village is not the complete answer. The complete answer is to get rid of the banks and the corporations. Somebody's making money off of spraying all that shit above us in these chemtrails. And that takes a lot of jet fuel up. So the oil companies are obviously making money off these planes zigzagging back and forth across our skies. But our snow's being poisoned. Our waters are being poisoned. We've already dumping fluoride into the water supplies. And they're going to try to come after the Liberty Villages, too. It's already happening. As soon as I proposed this in my magazine, the National Animal Identification System came out. Then
that's just a formality, but they can try to enforce that, Clayton, but don't they realize that they would have to put a lot of people in jail if you didn't tag your animals?
Do you know who is hiring people for overseas? They're bringing Obama's going to bring the vets back. they will be his police force.
Yes,
they are exporting. They're going to export. The Army is looking for civilians to work for the Army. The Army is going to be one of the biggest employers, and the employees are all going to be sent overseas. So we can't attack any country. We got to all have the same rules because we got Americans over there.
Yeah.
This is a whole new world order plan coming out, and the only way you're going to combat it, Steve, is by taking care of your neighborhood, your family, in your area. Now,
but Clayton, I'm going to tell you one problem that can happen with a small Liberty Village. It's easy to physically dominate. If you had a region of 100 square miles of decent people who regionalized it, then you could create a militia. But on a small level, all they'll do is bring their jackbooted thugs in there, and they'll start manhandling everybody, make up false charges.
No, Steve. The Liberty Villages will spring up once we get one done. It will be a turnkey business that somebody can start up just like a Motel 6. Nobody's going to come in there
so anybody can be free. It'd be like a motel thing.
Exactly, and with the rocking chairs on the porch like Country Kitchen or whatever it is, it's all across the country.
Y'all come back now, you hear?
Y'all come back here and take this video with you. Take this book. Get this book here. This food that you had here today is organic. This is grown. You're gonna have to pay 10 times the amount over there in the health food store for it. But come back to Liberty Villages. Spend the night over here. See what it was like for the Indians to sleep in a teepee.
Right.
You probably bought into those Hollywood movies about that. Check out that queen-size bed in that teepee right over there. You'll like that one. Okay?
Yeah. There's Clayton, I'm going to tell you something. What I really see is, I don't know, I have a question to ask you, and it's kind of related to Liberty Villages, but the mainstream media is worse than any mafia syndicate could have ever been.
I'm sorry. No. Let me clarify that. Let me clarify you that. There's two things I can't tell you. A couple of things I can't tell you if the mafia took over the government or the government took over the mafia. I can't tell you if the mafia controls the paper or the papers control the mafia. But it's all the same thing.
Right. Well, I just using mafia, saying that it's like that, only it's worse. But the corporate media that we have, I watch Chris Matthews occasionally because at work I can't stand watching it, but they always have that TV on. How many Americans are at some instinctive level realize that the corporate media is plain BS? That what they're being fed is the same processed crap that Tyson Chicken. It's a news version of Tyson Chicken's product. It's processed garbage.
Very, very few, because we've managed to dumb everybody down. They don't call television programming for nothing. So if you sit there and watch TV all day, your kids are hypnotized, you're hypnotized, and you don't get any real productive thought. Between the fluoride that's been fed to you, and the fact half of Americans are on drugs right now, and 20,000 Americans a year die from prescription drugs. Only 15,000 die from all the methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine over the country, and by the way, nobody's ever died of pot. So
yeah. And by the way, Clayton, I take no prescription drugs. I exercise, I take vitamins, and I eat pretty healthy. And I haven't been to a doctor in several years. And yet, all these people that go to the doctor every month or whatever, every 6 months, they're always having more problems. The doctors are designed to kill people and keep them sick, not make them healthy.
I have a lady just went back to Texas. She got they had her on all these medications, and so she kept having heart attack after heart attack after heart attack, and she's still on the medications. She's with her daughter, who's a doctor. That's the way they're trained, and they don't understand. I don't take any medication either. I mean, when I walked out of the hospital, they kept me drugged for 3 months in the hospital when they tried to kill me. And when I walked out of the hospital, I said, the only thing I need is a joint and a Harley, man. You can take all those other pills and jab them up your ass. I ain't taking them.
Yeah. Speaking of which, in your motorcycle accident, I remember when that happened. That happened in May of 2004. Am I correct?
May 20th, 2004.
Okay, I remember May of 2004. I remember hearing one of the commentators say that you were hurt in an accident. I thought you had a serious head injury, but the way it sounds, all you had was a few broken ribs, and yet they kept you in the hospital for a long time for basically nothing.
I had a severe head injury. I did.
Oh, you did?
I did, yeah. I bumped my head. I hit my head on the curb on the other side of the thing after rolling a Harley on me 3 times.
Oh, okay, I see.
did not have any broken bones and all that, but they said, man, this guy followed us all the way. So all the way, he didn't want to get on a stretcher. He didn't want to get in the ambulance. Doctor told him, well, it's a good thing he did that. Kept the blood flowing to his brain.
Right.
But they got me in the hospital and told my family I had blood on the brain, and they kept me drugged for 3 months on morphine, Halcyon, and Haldol, and Valium.
Right.
I think that was excessive.
Right.
When I came off of all the drugs, and I've got no memory of 3 months on drugs, no memory of being in the hospital, no memory of seeing my family in the hospital, and they were convinced I had a severe head injury. However, you know, in 1964, February 17, 1964, I took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. My service number was RA 18691-506. I don't think I've got a severe head injury. I don't think I've got a severe brain injury.
So we get into the Liberty Village concept. It's a novel concept. Is anybody taking the bait and saying, hey, Clay, maybe we need to start this now? Why is it taking so long for people to do this? Because the concept of some sort of independent villages needs to start happening, because there's no way. They're already cutting in the state of Ohio where I live. The teachers, they're threatening to cut their pension funds down to nothing. So what are people who have taught for 30 years going to do? We need to have self-sustaining villages, and I don't hear anybody here around my area say that all they want to do is win a Super Bowl in Cleveland. They don't want to think about being independent.
They don't, you know, what, you want me to go out there and dig in the garden? Yeah, you're damn right. Or get your kids to do it. You teach them how. Yeah, I expect you to pull your own weight. We need to do this. As a village here, it's run by, say, 10 families. 10 families live there. They decide what they're going to make there, what they're going to do there, because they're going to compete with the village down the street. And this is the key. By networking these villages, we're buying wholesale. So everybody in the village belongs to the Free American Cooperative, the Liberty Village Cooperative, and they get their staples, their corn or wheat or whatever, because the villages are going to be bringing it in bulk. They'll get those that cost plus 10. So it's going to save them money. Each Liberty Village, whether you live in a bag house, whether you live in a trailer, whether you live in a teepee, whether you live in a yurt, whatever you want to do, you can buy this teepee for $5,000 and you can roll it up and move it if you want to move, just like the Indians did.
Right, but we have to look at other things too. Getting off oil, electric. There's already a company, Clayton, in Cleveland or around Northeast Ohio. There's a company that makes electric cars already. Yes. But right now they've only got it down to like 30 miles per charge. But it seems that electric cars might be the way to go too. So if you live in a Liberty Village, the electric car can be charged on a solar panel or something. Like you can go to a service station. It takes about 15 minutes to charge, and then while you're doing that, you grab a bite to eat or wait or whatever. But we need to get into an entire electric control and away from the grid system totally.
We stay on the grid. Now, wait a minute. We stay on the grid because what we're going to do, each Liberty Village, each neighborhood, each Liberty neighborhood, where you get at least nine families or 10 families on the block to agree this is what we're going to do on the block. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put solar. If each house is generating their own solar, generating their own electricity, generating from wind, and putting that back into the grid starts paying us. So we can make it happen.
And it is going to mean, I'm going to say one thing, Clayton, and I'm very looking forward to this. It's going to mean that you can't be some narcissistic individual living in a community and you don't talk to your neighbors. You're going to have to freaking talk to your neighbors, whether you like it or not. And this is the problem with this arrogant American mindset. Everybody is brainwashed to believe that they're this independent, narcissistic human being, but we're going to have to start talking to our neighbors and the people around us, which will actually decrease crime because now we'll be more intimately involved with people. This
only works if you work together. It won't work any other way.
Right. There is no, when people say I want to get off the grid, they need to understand that you cannot be an individual by yourself living in a neighborhood and expect to be totally off the grid. The grid is going to depend on cooperation, and if you think you're going to survive just by yourself, you're in for a rude awakening. Because think about it, Clayton, if you had a bunch of food stored in your house in solar panels, as soon as things get tough, somebody's going to take it from you. But if you work as a collective group, you won't have to worry about that problem.
Well, that's why my whole plan encompasses doing providing a home for homeless veterans. They've doused us with depleted uranium. They've sprayed us with Agent Orange. They didn't want good, trained combat veterans coming down here back to this country and understanding what a communist regime we've been put in. And I intend to change it. By Liberty Villages and by paying them on scripts, letting them work out, making everybody responsible, for the survival of the village, of the community.
Clayton, you know what pisses me off, what you're talking about, and I agree with it about the Liberty Villages? There's a guy named Gerald Celente. He's another one of these media shills that goes around talking about what we need to do. He said, oh, we need a productive capacity, we need to do this and that, but he doesn't really give you a game plan. A lot of these so-called alternative people out there in the media will talk about what we need to do, but they themselves have no way to do it. But you're giving a concrete plan of what we need to do, which is get involved in these small, sustainable communities, and that's a great thing. I don't want to get into
we've got it. Think about this. Think about this for just a second. This is the way we built America.
Right.
Small towns all across America. The farmers outside of town, the saloon in town. Whatever. That's the way we built America. That's how we were strong. And 60 years ago, 70 years ago, we had 40% of people living and working on farms. Today we got 2%. We have to reverse that.
Right.
We have to. I mean, that's the only way we're going to survive. Or we're going to survive as a communist China, communist Russia, or a communist European Union.
Yeah, well, I find the only lack of slavery is when you're single and you don't have any kids, like I don't have any children, because and I don't think that's a fun way to go, but it seems that if you have children in this society today and you're married, you are so caught in this grid system that you almost are stuck with it, okay? And I think Liberty Villages will free people of that. You can still have a family and you can still move around and have mobility instead of having to be literally physically attached to this mortgage payment, house payment, all this other stuff. I tell you, it's almost a burden to have all that stuff.
I think so. You should watch George Carlin's skit called Stuff.
Yeah, I've seen George Carlin, and when the year he died in 2008, he did a final comedy special, and he spelled it all out, what was going on in America. I think the guy was right in line with what you're saying.
Great minds work alike. They didn't stop. Now, a lot of the stuff that's happening today was predicted and talked about in the Bible.
Okay.
And religions have gone in and taken over the knowledge and tried to control that knowledge and information.
Right. How do you like the Christian Response Team? Give in to the government. They're sweet, loving people. God said it's okay. Romans 13.
Well, look at Paul, a Pauline Christianity. Here's a Pharisee infiltrating the Christian religion, telling you, hey, be a good slave. Don't rebel against your masters.
Right.
I think that a lot of times, not to minimize the importance of the Bible, not to minimize the contributions that Jesus gave, but I think they promoted him at the Council of Nicaea when the Catholic Church was formed, when they took control over it. They promoted him to God so you and I wouldn't aspire to be the kind of man he was.
Right, I see what you're saying. It makes sense. I think that Clayton, so Liberty Villages are going to. Now, have you had any success in organizing 100 solid people? I mean, I'm asking this. Okay, you created this concept of having TPs, Liberty Villages. Are you getting people to say, Clayton, I want into this thing? Have you gotten anybody that has said, this is the way to go, we need to do it, let's do it, let's make this happen? Because there's got to be at least 100 people with a fairly decent salary that can put the money up for this to happen.
My show is blocked in every library. It's blocked in Intel. It's blocked in Intuit. Whether this will get out, I don't know. I don't know. They, you know, I had one of my magazines, not even related to the Free American. I had one of my magazines sold for $500,000. They put a press release out on Friday. Monday, I walked into the office, and the CEO is white and shaking. Clay, I can't do it. I can't do it. They're threatening to crash my stock. My stock's crashing like a rock, dropping even as we said. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Okay, Clayton, I'm going to say something to you. You talked about how you wanted to buy a piece of property, but the government beat you to it. Let's say a low-profile person decides to listen to your show. They're already a millionaire. They buy a huge piece of property. There's going to be nobody at that point that can stop them because they've already owned and secured the property. So they start putting up their Liberty Villages. Will there be physical infiltration by forces? I predict that they'll find some cause to physically go in there and start some shit.
They will try to come in and organize you by the health codes. They will do all that. But I've dealt with those kind of bureaucracies. I've had restaurants. I've had all kinds of business. I can deal with those bureaucracies.
Yeah, but you can't if they've got bigger guns than you because they enforce it.
No. This ain't guns. This ain't about it. We will have protection. But I have always, everywhere that I've lived, everywhere that I've had property, I've been good friends with the sheriff, with the local police chief, with the chief of the state police, and with the governor. What we're talking about is something that's good for the American people. This is not. You know, I'm opening up a rural motel without Norman Bates. Okay.
Okay. Right.
That's all I'm doing. I'm opening up a restaurant because I think you and your children have the right to eat good food, just like my grandmother made for me off of her backyard Liberty Garden in Weatherford, Texas.
Right.
That's all I'm talking. I'm talking about this now. Now, if you know, if we get into the banksters and all that, there's a way to get around it. If you've already got some money, the Liberty Villages is the best way that you can take your property and your money and secure it and get people in there to help you secure it. A business don't work. What we're talking about is a network of cooperating farmers, homeowners, family people working together in a cooperative. We want to have access to raw milk. If your state doesn't like that, we'll bring it in somewhere else. Bring it in some other.
Yeah, and if you want to be a vegetarian, your vegetables will be much more closer to the earth than the ones you get in the grocery store.
If we get the permission, and we will get the permission to regrow hemp, that will go down deep enough into the earth and restore the fulvic acid that all of our plants are missing. That's why the plants aren't doing well for you. They don't have fulvic acid.
You're right. And hemp is, you can eat hemp plant. The protein powder is unbelievable. Hemp has got about 100 different things you can use it for other than smoking it. And the government knows that it's beyond just the mentally liberating your mind that they're afraid of. They don't want any form of cure for cancer. It cures, it's a health food. I mean, you could live off, there's one person that sells the powder alone for like making bread and stuff. You can do a lot of stuff with the hemp plant. Am I correct?
Yes. It is. The roots in the hemp plant go so deep. One of my father-in-laws was Secretary of Agriculture of California. He said if they were allowed to plant hemp on the hillside, there wouldn't be any erosion. There wouldn't be any mudslides.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just grass alone will keep your grass from cracking. So hemp plant goes so deep that it actually keeps the ground preserved, and it's one of nature's amazing plants. My Ukrainian grandmother mentioned hemp. I mean, she told me about it, and this was like my great-grandmother, or my aunt told me about it. She says they grew it in the Ukraine. I mean, they've grown it all over the world, and it's one of the most fertile, resourceful plants that there are out there. So I'm just saying, people don't realize the value of this plant that they criminalized. And you're right when you said it best. You says they create laws to make law-abiding citizens citizens criminals.
That's right. And that's what the pot laws are about. That's what the tax laws are about. Oh, you didn't cross that T, you didn't dot that I. If you or I do that, we're a paper terrorist. If they do it, that's just the way the government works.
I wish people would see the hypocrisy in this government, because every time I turn on the Bill Curtis specials, it's always the Italian mafia does this. The Italian mafia hasn't done 1/100th the damage that the corporations have done in our political system.
Well, just a minute. There was no real such thing as the Italian mafia. Al Capone went to jail. Meyer Lansky didn't. Meyer Lansky was the brains behind the mafia. Meyer Lansky was behind Murder Incorporated. Meyer Lansky was Jewish. The Russian mob,
all Jewish,
Jewish. You know, and
all Ashkenazis. I know all your Russian mobsters. There are maybe a few henchmen that are Gentiles, but almost all of them are Ashkenazi Jews.
Yes. And the same kind of people that ran the concentration camps, the same kind of people that are running Homeland Security right now.
Yeah. Now, I mean, this idea, John Kaminsky has touched on this, and I know it's a touchy subject for some people, but do you really feel that you can get anywhere in the political system without saying the word Jew, or do you think that you have to mention this situation before you can get anywhere?
I think that we have been, the whole, you know, the way, I believe it was Wilson referred to it, there is a conspiracy so deep, they run so deep, that you dare not mention a word without, you know.
Yeah, because I noticed that there's a lot of these Jews, these Ashkenazi Jews that say, oh, my parents are Jewish, but I don't believe in religion, and they're all in the Patriot movement. But they have infiltrated it in a very sinister way, because they'll say, like the 9/11 Truth Movement, the Jewish end of it is, oh, yes, we believe it was Dick and Cheney and George Bush, but you dare not mention Dov Zakheim or any of the Israeli...
Dov Zakheim, he's the one that provided the remote control devices that caused those planes to fly into the building.
Right, exactly. You're not allowed to mention any of this stuff, or else you're going to be demonized. And but going back to my question, is it possible to talk about all of these problems without mentioning Jews? I think it's impossible. At some level, you have to say that there is a group of people in power that are wielding public opinion.
I tell you what, when the Jews stop talking about the Palestinians and the Muslims, I'll stop talking about the Jews. How's that?
Right. Yeah.
You know, the whole idea that, oh, you can't talk, I've never heard anybody talk. Oh, I see. You must be of that school of thought. If someone in your family told you you're not supposed to talk about religion or politics in public. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes. Oh, I see. Well, the person that told you that was a communist.
Hey, you'd be surprised when you're at the worst thing you can do is if you're at a big corporate banquet for your company and you mention the word Israel and Jews, you will see people almost choke to death on their food. They've been so conditioned. The mere mention of the word Israel or Jews or Israeli policy is corrupt with our officials. They immediately start getting all agitated.
You're anti-Semitic. There's an anti-Semite here, right here in the room with us. He's anti-Semitic. No, I'm not against myself.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, Clayton, I'm going to tell you something right now. It could revert to physical violence. I've had it like where people give you such a dirty look that I could see them saying, oh, you want to go out and fight right now? Because they're so programmed that if you say the word Jew, and these are non-Jews, they want to physically get up and start fighting because they think that like you're some neo-Nazi when you're really not.
That's right. That's exactly that's happened to me in the biker. I've been a biker for my whole life. My whole life. I've been riding a motorcycle, 15 years. And in the biker community, after my book came out on Christian identity, and they really tried to demonize Christian identity, right now, right beside the militias, Homeland Security is behind that, Southern Poverty Law is behind that, ADL is behind that. They want to demonize anybody that's being patriotic. They're doing it to sovereign citizens. This is what's happening now. That's why the time for Liberty Villages is now. It's not tomorrow, it's not the next day. It's now.
Now, let me ask you a question, Clayton. This brings up, I'm getting back to the Jewish question. There are going to be Jewish people that want to get involved in this. How are you going to know the infiltrators from the non-infiltrators?
This is our private club. If you're Jewish, if you got a history, you want to join the club, there's going to be a background check. We want to make sure there's no illegal aliens here.
Of doing that, because even if they don't believe in religion, they'll still side with the Jewish angle on everything.
That's right. But, you know, this ain't going to